Greetings, everybody, and welcome to my YouTube channel, All That Is. I'm so pleased to welcome Rob from Typical Skeptic podcast to my channel. Rob is a creator and a host of Typical Skeptic podcast. It's a fast-growing show that dives deep into fringe topics like UFOs, secret space programs, the paranormal, conspiracy theories, and spiritual awakening. He's based out of Pittsburgh. Robert has built a dedicated audience of over 20,000 subscribers on YouTube before his channel was taken down. A testament to the impact of his work and the topics he fearlessly covers. With over 18,000 episodes and a global following, he's built a reputation for asking those hard questions and giving a voice to whistleblowers, experiencers, psychics, and researchers who challenge mainstream narratives. A longtime truth seeker with a background in fitness and a passion for uncovering hidden knowledge, Robert blends open-mindedness with grounded skepticism, creating a platform that's both eye-opening and authentic. So without further ado, welcome Rob to the show.
Thanks. I had ChatGPT write my bio for me, so
That's awesome. No, that's a great bio. I think it accurately describes you. So why not take advantage of what's out there, hey?
yeah. I think AI. I think AI can be very beneficial to us. I like
Absolutely.
you know if you use it the right way. I think
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Wow, no, that is a great resume, and I really appreciate you coming on the show. I have to say this, Rob, you were the first one that interviewed me on my YouTube channel. So, that was back in November, and we had a great chat, and I introduced my books on your channel. So I'm so grateful to you for that.
we have to do a new one because they took my channel down. So like if
Oh
you want to
yeah,
come back
that's
on
right.
in April, I probably still have that file somewhere, of the interview we did because I have mostly all my files. But
Yeah.
I've done like over 1,800 podcasts, so to find it would be really hard. So I'm just doing the thing of like inviting people on my new channel. And the new channel's already grown I have like I don't have 20,000 followers again, but I already have like 1,700, and that's in a month. Because I think what happened was it's like the resume said, like, like I think my show's like a testament to like what I do, and I think my audience really likes me. So people are finding me again, regardless of the YouTube takedown. And then yeah, so you're more than welcome to come back on my show if you'd like and promote your work. And yeah, I mean, we can even do it in April if you want. We can set it up. But yeah, that's we can talk about that later. But I just figured I'd offer you because my channel did get taken down, so it's like
Thank you.
kind of.
No, I appreciate that. I really do. Yeah, let's talk about that. Because that is such a shame because I know how hard it is to build a channel and to grow the subscribers on your channel. I mean, I know that you have some fantastic guests, so that in itself is a great magnet. But I just crossed the 1,000 subscribers, and I know that was really hard one to get to that stage. So that's like a true kick in the gut for you to lose your entire channel after so long, right? And you put in a lot of hard work. So yeah, that is truly a shame, and it's unfortunately the reality that that we live in, right? But to
Yeah,
me, I think that just says something, right? It's like you have touched on something that is triggering, right? And so
yeah.
you're onto something, you're onto the truth. And that's how I see it, right? These beings, they just love to play these games, unfortunately, with us, right? And so
Yeah, it was like
kudos
they
to
were looking.
you.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say they. So it was like they were like looking for any reason to like take my channel down, Because I argued with YouTube on Twitter, and I was telling them like that I didn't do anything wrong, and like the videos that they cited that they took down didn't make any sense as to why they took them down, and like it really just made no sense, it was really hard to deal with, but
Yeah,
but I'm moving past it, and
yeah.
I've built a following on Rumble as well. So I'm on Rumble too, and I'm growing on there. I have like 3,000 followers on Rumble, and my video. I would advise you too to like if you want start a channel on Rumble because like I feel like a lot of people are going to be going there if the censorship holds stays the way it is. a lot of people will be going to Rumble, and I think it's a fast growing platform. But I also think TikTok is too. I think I would
Mm.
encourage people to do TikTok because now on TikTok you can do up to 60-minute videos. So like say our interview is
Oh,
about 60 minutes, you can now put that on TikTok, and TikTok's the most fastest growing platform out of all of them. I truly believe that. You know what I mean? Like I really
yeah,
think
yeah.
TikTok is the one to be on. I see my interviews go over an hour, so I have to find a good editing software to where I can cut them out in an hour because like TikTok won't take the video if it's over an hour. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna find a good. For me, like editing's been an issue in the past because, and this is just like kind of podcasting tips for anybody out there who has a podcast. People might find this, beneficial. I've had trouble like with editing software. I've been able to use the YouTube editor and that seemed to work good, but then when I've downloaded other editing software, it's been hard to use. So like I can't find a good editor. If I could find a good editor, that would solve a lot of my issues. Because what I'd also like to do, and I feel like this is beneficial for people too, is people should take like 10 minute clips of their videos and post them on Instagram and post them on TikTok, and that gets
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that gets people a lot more traffic too.
Yeah,
I don't do it myself, but I want to. I just need to
yeah.
find something good.
That's
Yeah, but
awesome.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, I figured that'd be people always like to hear like what I say about podcasting and stuff. So that's just a little bit of I guess where I'm at with what I'm doing.
No, those are really good tips. Thank you for saying that. I use Clipchamp myself as a video editor software. And that's worked out really well for me. So I don't know if you want to try give that a shot. It's a free web-based editor. So yeah, maybe
I'm gonna
give that a
write that
shot.
down. I'm gonna write that down on my calendar. It's called Clipchamp.
Clipchamp, yeah.
And what that do? That'll let you edit clips, and you can edit your
Yeah,
videos down to an hour too.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can edit it as much as you want, or as keep the whole video. But yeah, it works really well for me. So I've used it
Wow.
quite extensively. So yeah, it allows you to do even those short ones that you can use for TikTok or even Instagram. I sometimes do that as well. So yeah, it's really helpful.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, Rob, I'm just going to do a pivot from what you're usually used to. I'm going to first of all flip the tables on you, and you become the person that's fielding the questions. So, I just want to dig a little deeper on who Rob is all about, and we'll come around to your channel once again. But I just want to dig a little deeper as to how you got started, and perhaps go into your spiritual life, if you will, um, and what your belief systems are. So yeah, wherever you want to start, that would be really
Well,
helpful.
yeah, so I started I've always had an interest in like UFOs and the paranormal like my whole life, and when it really started was back. I mean, I'm 45 years old right now. So this started back in 2001. But like even like when I was a little kid, like I would go to the library and I'd try to find books on UFOs and the paranormal. Like I loved it for some reason. And then in 2001, I was with my girlfriend at the time, and I was driving her home, and I was flipping through the radio stations, and I found this guy talking about UFOs and the paranormal on the radio, and like remember in 2001, that was when there was no internet, there was no there was no it was a lot different time. There was the word podcast hadn't even been thought of yet, like so
Mm,
all that was out there was radio, so it was very limited in like what we had in like in this field. So I was 21 years old at the time, and I discovered Art Bell, who was like, later on he became like a world famous like radio host for about the paranormal and UFOs. And I didn't know who he was then. I guess he had been on the radio already for like 8 years in 2001. He'd been doing this since the 90s. But I caught him then, and I was just fascinated. I told all my friends, I was like, man, there's this guy, he's talking about like UFOs and the paranormal and stuff like that. And I started tuning in every chance I could get. And then me and my friends would like take long drives, like sometimes we would end up at like the Waffle House in Pittsburgh, and we would stay up all night, and we would because his show would be on at night. His show would be on at like 1 a.m. to like 5 a.m. in the morning, and we would get like food and sometimes we would go on a burn run or something. 'Cause we were kids back then. And like we would hang out and talk all night about like mysteries and stuff. So I guess it was always with me. And then like life kind of got in the way, and I had a career. I was a mortgage broker for 10 years, and then when the recession hit in 2009, I lost my job. And when I lost, at that point, I was a senior loan officer for Wells Fargo Financial. I was doing really good, and then I just started to feel really down on myself. And I developed, I don't like to admit this, but a lot of people know about it. I developed a problem with addiction. And I got wrapped up in some really bad stuff. And I'm going to tell you this because this ties into the spiritual stuff. So what happened was it got so bad that I was out of control in like 2008, 2009, 2010. And what happened was I was driving my girl. So this is a different girlfriend now. This is 2010. I was in the throes of addiction, you could say. And I was driving my girlfriend's car because my car was in the shop, and it was New Year's Eve of 2010, and I was driving up a hill, and something hit the right back side of my car, and I was like, what the heck happened? So I pulled over, and I got out, and there was a guy laying there on the
Mm.
ground. Like I guess he found a way to launch himself into my car. You know what I mean? And the reason why I found this out is because later, this was like the hardest 6 months of my life to go through. Like the police did an investigation, and they found that I was innocent. They found that he was trying to kill himself. He had been in the bar that day. Remember, it was New Year's, so people were out like drinking and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And he was in the bar saying that he was going to kill himself or kill someone that night. And the people at the bar didn't think anything of it. They just kept serving him, because back then people are like probably figured people say things. And I'm in Western Pennsylvania, which is like really kind of like it's not very advanced. Let's say because but it was sad because this guy had problems. And I feel really bad for his family or whatever. But what happened was, so I guess like these women saw that this happened to me, and they remembered they had been on the same road that night, and they told the police that he tried jumping in front of their car too. So I guess by the time that it happened to me, that he got it right. He was really wanting to do it, and he did it. So needless to say, this had a huge impact on my life. And then on top of that, I had a girlfriend die in 2010, and then my uncle also died. Which I don't know if I want to get into those topics because it's not suitable for YouTube. But I'll just say my girlfriend died of an overdose, but my uncle he unalived himself. You can't say the word on YouTube because they'll take the video
Right.
down. But so what was poignant about this was these two people, like my ex girlfriend at the time. She was also one of my best friends because we dated in high school. You know what I mean? So we had this like bond. Like she was someone that I could always talk to, and so was my uncle. So it was like losing like two key figures in my life when I really needed people. When like my spirituality. You mentioned spirituality. Like my spirituality at that point was at an all-time low because I was raised Catholic, and I wasn't really feeling religion at that time. So needless to say, this made me really want to change my life. All these things, all these events made me want to really like turn my life around. And then in the process of turning my life around and going to therapy and stuff like that, in 2015 I had a reawakening. And what that reawakening was I was I have Greek heritage, and I was on the internet, and I was researching something about Alexander the Great. I remember. I'll always remember this because this like forever changed my life around. And I came across this video by Matthew LaCroix, and it was called "The Battle of the Eagle and the Serpent." And I was interested. I said, "What's this?" And he started talking about the Anunnaki, and he was talking about Enki and Enlil. Enlil being the eagle and Enki being the serpent, and that the Anunnaki possibly genetically modified humans. And for me in 2015, this was it was like a huge wake up call. I was like, holy heck. I was like, so I emailed him immediately, and he was really nice. He emailed me back, and I was like, oh my god, they're lying to us about our history. So when I found this out, it made me want to. I started like all of a sudden wanting to like dive down all these rabbit holes, like of like conspiracies. And obviously I went to 9/11 and all the conspiracies. And it made me want to get into spirituality a lot more, and alternative health, and then it also took me back to my childhood, because remember, that's what I was saying. I was into UFOs and paranormal at a young age, so naturally I kind of reverted back to that stuff as well, because I kind of always followed like UFO radio throughout time. But then in 2015, I was like, oh, okay, well, this all these topics relate. So I was like, so I got back into it. And then after researching for 5 years and studying for 5 years, in 2020, the pandemic hit. And I lost my job at that point too. I was doing something else. And I decided I was going to start a YouTube channel, and at first I was talking about the Anunnaki, because like I knew a lot about the Anunnaki. Like I knew, I read a lot of Sitchin's books, but not, I didn't just read Sitchin. I read about like other Assyriologists, like who transcribed the Sumerian tablets, and they were coming up with a similar, thing, that like, something happened in our history that they're not telling us about. And I remember this clear as day. Like when I lost my job and the pandemic hit, I was like, I'm going to start interviewing people, and I started interviewing people, and then started to build my channel, and I continued to build my channel, and I worked a job, and then in 2023, I decided, I was like, I'm just going to work for myself. I was like, I'm going to do my own thing, and that's it, and I did. And I ever since then, from 2023 to now, I've been doing, I guess you could say I'm outside the matrix, but I have to monetize myself like a lot of different ways. Like I don't offer services, but I get donations, I have affiliate links people click, I sell merch, I get ad revenue from other sources than YouTube, what I mean, like my audio podcast, and a little bit from Rumble and stuff like that. So like when you put it all together, it works, for me at least. I don't know about other people, but that's how I made it. And then obviously losing my YouTube, that was a huge hit for me. But I still, I'm motivated, and I'm like, I feel like, what, I was like, I'm gonna bounce back, and I'm gonna make this YouTube better than the old one. So that's kind of like a brief summary of my life and what got me into this, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
I,
absolutely. No, thank you for sharing. That's a beautiful story. No, I really, really appreciate it. And thank you for sharing. I know there are some difficult things that we all have to go through, right? And I'm really sorry to hear about the losses that you had to incur along the way, right? So just going back to what you talked about. Now, there's two things I want to do. I want to talk about the Anunnaki and about your ascension path, if you will. So, did you sort of make that connection, if you will, on a spiritual level, that there was this connection, if you will, between religion or spirituality and that connection with the UFOs, or, the interdimensional energies, if you will? Did you make that leap of faith or that connection? Because I know for myself and my own background, I had to make that huge leap of faith from just being a non-believer in ETs or interdimensional beings into like going full force into complete belief that there are these beings that exist outside of our reality. So how was it for you, and what was your experience with that?
yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's a great question. Like I was like, I was raised Christian. Like my dad is like Lebanese. He's like well, he was like American, right? He's like fourth generation American. So he was like what you would call Orthodox Christian, or they call it like Syrian Orthodox. It's the same as like Greek Orthodox, and then my mom is Greek and Italian. So I'm like real Mediterranean, my background is, and she was raised like Roman Catholic. So, I had like a strong Christian upbringing, but then when I found all these things out in 2015, I obviously realized that like religion was like a control structure. So that was like really hard to, to kind of, to realize it first, but then I kind of, the more that you study, the more that you realize it is, that's definitely what it is, I feel like any religion, I don't want to say that because there's a lot of good people that are religious, but for me, I felt that way at least, and I wanted to embrace spirituality, like, and so, but yeah, to answer your other question, like, yeah, it was a big leap of faith, but what really has tested me was recently when I had this haunting, because it like hit me in the face that I was being bothered by some non-human um, like entity, like and I guess like you could say that I believed in ETs and everything, and I've never had a well I've never okay, so I'll back up, like I've never had a real UFO experience, but I have had some weird things happen. So and it just happened recently, and I feel like this is a part of like the ascension path, like I think these things are going to happen, and what had happened was, and I don't mean to go all over the place, but like, I think you'll find this interesting. So I got done doing a podcast one night and I came outside and it was when the drone thing was going on in New Jersey and New York, and then like the drones were popping up all over the world and the orbs and stuff. And
Mhm.
I have this on film on my phone too. So I looked up in the sky and like just gliding over my apartment was was a drone, a real drone, And when I zoomed in, it exactly looks it looks like a UFO type drone, And I was blown away. I was like, holy heck! So up until that point, I had never had a UFO or drone sighting, and then exactly 3 days later, I was walking to, I guess, the dollar store or something. Yeah, I can't remember. And we have BP gas stations here because I'm in Pennsylvania, and but right like 300 feet above the BP gas station, this is 3 days after I saw the drone, there was this shape shifting, like plasmoid orb that, and I was like in complete shock and awe. I was like, I can't believe that other people aren't seeing this, that they aren't stopping on their cars on the road to film it and stuff. So I automatically got out my phone and I tried to record it, but like it like when it was weird when I recorded the drone, I didn't have a problem. I was able to record the drone. When I went to record the orb, it did something where it jammed like my phone, and it messed up, like it like I like the camera was like all messed up. I was like, holy heck! I was like, and I remembered, like, from UFO lore about people's, like, cars and stuff like that malfunctioning when like UFOs or orbs were near. Now, what was weird was people were just driving by, so it wasn't affecting other people, but for some reason, it was affecting my phone. I don't know why, but so those two things kind of really, though, seeing those two things made like that kind of like, I guess, ingrained in me that something, even though I had been covering the material for a long time, because those just happened recently, I hadn't had a sighting up until that point, but so those kind of like, you know, solidified that there was something else out there. And then like my haunting recently that I've been dealing with, like I've been dealing with this, like, I guess you could call it like an astral parasite. That's the best way to put it. But I've had other stuff go on here too. So about 2 years ago when my ex girlfriend was here, like something would be touching me, and I didn't know what it was, and it wasn't her. So like I figured out that was some kind of spirit as well, and I got rid of that. And then there was another instance where I would be sleeping at night and I would feel like these beings, like, I can't see anything, but I can feel it. I would feel them portaling up from the ground, like they would, like portal up from the ground, and they were like loose feeding off my liver because I had a liver issue at that time. I had a fatty liver, and then I got rid of that. Then most recently, I've had this astral parasite problem, and what's weird. So I guess you could say, to answer your question, like it took things like that to really like um, instill my belief system that like there definitely is like these other. Now I still haven't seen an ET. I haven't seen Bigfoot. You know what I mean? So I haven't seen anything like that, but like I do believe they're out there for sure. It's
Mhm.
basically because of what I've saw so far. You know.
Wow, that is truly amazing. Well, from what I gather, Rob, sorry, the veil, if you will, is thinning, right? And so all of these energies, the old energies, if you will, that were on this planet are now being removed in a way. And so A lot of them are attached, if you will, to the beings on the earth, to the environment, to everything really that has a way of accommodating these energies, if you will, right? And so um, they're now coming into the forefront, if you will, of your energy because you are becoming, shall we say, a light being, right? You're holding light much better than you were before. And this is, to my understanding, it's by default, whether you're doing it consciously or whether you're doing it unconsciously. And this is because we are moving through what you know as the photon belt. So cosmically, we are moving through this energy called the photon belt, which is bathed in the creator light, if you will. And so whether we like it or not, we are being bathed by this energy. And so these beings, they cannot exist in that energy field that's coming through. And so they have to, remove themselves from the earth essentially. And so they're desperately trying to stay, but they're not being allowed to. And this is manifesting not only in experiences like you have had, but it's being manifest in politics, in all kinds of places that you see animosity taking place, right? Within the wars, within the divine feminine, divine masculine energies going up against each other. It's showing up in all these different aspects, right? And
I
so
agree.
my advice to you would be to just, like we did like to my guests and to people viewing, Rob and I just did an impromptu sort of healing before the show started because he was having trouble with this entity. And so, like we did in the meditation, just tune into your heart and dispel any of those energies if they ever, come into your reality again.
Yeah.
Because I think for me, what has worked is that true connection to your higher self and that connection to the creator, and that's all that matters right now. So as long as you maintain that true connection, I don't think you can be harmed by anything else.
Yeah.
So have you
It's
had
it,
like a go ahead?
no, go, no, again, it's okay. I was gonna say it seems like they'll try to attach, but it seems like like one person taught me also like a heart coherence exercise. Where you put your hand on your heart and your hand on your stomach, and then you like breathe in like your love frequency, and then you do
Yeah.
that over and over and over, like an in and out breath, and that seems to clear it as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
they'll
I
try
think
to keep
that's really good
attaching.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think the key is to breathe, like if you can count like 3 beats in, hold for 3 beats, and then out, exhale for 3 beats. That
yeah,
really helps to clear up your energy as well. So yeah, all of these little tips and tricks truly work, So just keep at it. Whatever residual energies are there, they will just dissipate over the day, as the day progresses. So my next question to you was, have you ever had a sort of a reflection, if you will, and your connection to the Anunnaki? You said that that was the first sort of information that you were attracted to when you did your research in 2015. And the Anunnaki story. I'm getting a very strong impression that you have a deeper connection to the Anunnaki. Have you ever had any more sort of impressions and your connection to the Anunnaki?
No, I mean, it's weird you say that because I feel like that too. Like, I feel like, well, I think maybe because of my heritage where I'm from, that I could have because that they were in Sumer, which was, like Babylon, like Iraq, which is modern day Iraq, and then my family is from like my dad's family is from Lebanon, but like, so, I thought, and supposedly Enki had some lady told me that Enki had a genetics lab in the Cedars of Lebanon, which I'm not sure about that. But I think maybe what I think is like maybe I do have a connection to that, and that I think like different depending on where you're from in the world, I think that could be like different ET races that impacted people.
Mhm,
I don't
mhm.
think it was just the Anunnaki. I think it like many different, because if you look at like the Vedics, for example, which I don't know too much about, but I know, some of the gods are like blue. You know what I mean? Which
Yeah,
makes me think that like maybe like a different ET race was interacting with them, but like there's some crossover, right? Like like there's like they say that like in the Sumerian tablets that Anana had a rulership over some parts of the Indus Valley. So there definitely is some crossover there. So it could be different ET races working together to civilize different parts of the world.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, I'm going to give you an example of what happened to me and my story, right? And this might relate to you or might trigger you in some way because um, if healing needs to take place for you on a soul level, then this would be a great time to do it, right? And to sort of untangle yourself, if you will, from those energies, if you need to untangle yourself from those energies, right? And so we, in a way, have been, and when I say we, I mean just a select population, right? Have been prisoners, if you will, on this planet or this plane of existence. And this goes back to the Orion Wars and the the Lemurian and the wars before that, all of these galactic wars, right? And so for me personally, I was in a way imprisoned with the Draco, and so I've got tangling with the Draco that goes back to my soul birthing, if you will. And just in the last 6 months, I have entangled not only myself but my overself, my oversoul from this energy. And so a rebirthing, if you will, has taken place for me on a soul level. And so I've now connected myself, if you will, back to the energy of the creator and realign those energies with my higher self. And so there's that release, if you will, from like completely removing yourself from those imposing energies, right? Whatever the race may be, right? And so for
Yeah.
you, I'm getting a strong impression that there is that Anunnaki attachment, if you will, to your soul energy. And so, in a way, you need to untangle yourself and clear that energy from perhaps past lifetimes, because that happened to me as well. I had like many of these lifetimes to clear up and untangle myself from, and whatever impressions those had on my past lifetimes, right? And so
Yeah.
I've been working for the last many, many years, but it's become more intense over the last, I would say, perhaps year and a half, where all of this healing has taken place on a soul level. So that would be my recommendation for you to just explore that and see where this takes you, connect to your higher self. Just Do you meditate, Rob?
Yeah. Yeah. I do. I
So
mean,
yeah,
not all the time, but when I do, when I get a chance, like I would say the heart coherence exercise is like a mini meditation.
yeah,
You know, 'cause
absolutely.
but like I need to do it probably more than I should. Or more than I
Yeah.
do. So,
Yeah, I'm also seeing a Palladian connection for you. So perhaps there's some sort of blending going on there. But definitely explore that for yourself and see where that takes you during your meditations. Like we did in our meditation, just connect to your higher self, connect to Source Creator, and start asking those questions. What is your connection to the Anunnaki? What is your connection to the Palladian? And ask if those healings need to take place on a soul level. And then just see what impressions you get, what thoughts or images or impressions come through, and try to heal from that, because I have a feeling that's why you're getting attacked as well, because those energies are attracted to those old energies that are needing to be released, and they're trying to sort of gain a footing, if you will, in your energy, right? So you don't need that, you don't want that to happen, because right now all of those old energies are disintegrating, including the unfortunately the divine masculine, which has been attacked over many centuries, right? And so you represent that divine masculine energy, and so they're trying to um, refresh um, that anchoring, if you will, right, to continue with the inversion. So we don't want that to happen.
I agree. I agree
What are your
100%.
impressions of the new earth and the new energies coming in, like for the Aquarius, the new age of Aquarius?
I think you're absolutely right. I think well, I mean, it's weird because I've had different guests on my show that say different things about the age of Aquarius. For example, like Robert Sullivan, for example, he's like a Freemason, but he's like a good Freemason, and he has a complete different perspective on what the age of Aquarius holds as compared to like someone else. Like some people think that it's a good thing that we're heading into the age of Aquarius and it's going to be a good change for positive. Some people think it's a bad thing. So I try to stay neutral. I'm not really sure. Like, do you feel like it's definitely going to be a positive thing?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, totally. I believe it's going to be a very big change for not only humanity, but for those that are consciously going through this ascension process, right? And so
Yeah.
it's going into the higher realms as well, because this is not just our ascension, it's the ascension of many, many souls that are sort of waiting in the sidelines, if you will. Because if you look at it from my perspective and that severing of the Draco energies, if you will, like, so we were like on the earth plane, right? We were vibrating at, like, say, the 7D earth. And when the Draco came in with that invasion, they sort of cut us off from that higher connection to source, right? And so all of our higher selves that were existing within that higher realm are like pieces of us that are still there that need to be reconnected back to our soul, if you will. So it's a healing on many levels, on many dimensions that are needing to take place. And so with this ascension, if you will, it's just, healing that's happening on all of these levels, not just for the population on the earth plane. And so for me, most recently, the energies of the Christ consciousness and the Sophia energies have been coming through very, very strongly. And so that's been within my reality in the last few days. And I don't know if you heard through Indy's channel, but we are doing a Canadian Gridwork mission tomorrow. And so all of these energies are completely aligning with what we are trying to bring forth for that Gridwork mission. And so 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we did a Gridwork mission in the UK. And those Arthurian energies came through very strongly, which is like the divine masculine energy, but
Yeah.
it was like the pure Christos energies that were aligned with the true masculine energies. And then it was as if that reflection came through as the Sophia energies with the energy of a white buffalo woman. And that happened like just a few days ago. So it's like this divine masculine energy first came through, and then the divine feminine energy came through for me as transmissions. And so they both spoke of the same, but in the opposite manner of, the divine masculine, and then it was the divine feminine, and these two energies coming together as the Christos energies, or the true Christ consciousness energies that are coming into our reality, and that brings in directly the energies of what Indy talks about as the new age, or the crystal, or the crystalline golden cities that are coming through and being birthed as the new earth energies. And so with this grid work that we're working on, one of the cities, or the golden cities, have been identified, which is very close to where I am, in British Columbia in Canada. And so that's sort of our focus for now, where we go into, bringing forth these new age energies, or the crystalline new earth energies. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, and I think Canada needs a lot of like, help in the grids. I mean, because like, if you look at what's going on there, that'll be really beneficial. I think, I think
Yeah,
that's a
absolutely. No, we're targeting many different things, not just the healing in the lands, but we're trying to focus on the Aboriginal people, and awakening all of the healing that they were suppressed. And yeah, it's like, yeah, we're bringing a whole lot of stuff that's coming through with the gridwork healing. So yeah,
maybe
if
I'll
you
join
and
you guys. What time is that tomorrow?
I believe it's 2 p.m. PST, so it'll probably be what, 11 o'clock your time.
No,
Oh,
that's
you're no, you're
5. It'll
later
be
than me.
5.
5, right? 5.
Yeah.
I can add that information on this description if it comes out tomorrow, or I can email that information to you. Yeah, it would be fun to have you in that mission. So we're definitely focusing on 3 different locations. One of them is Mount Shasta, the other is Bermuda, and Calgary. So it makes like a triangle of that grid work. And so yeah, we're going to be focusing on all of that.
That's
But yeah,
cool.
yeah, just going back to I guess you sort of touched on that initially. What is your opinion of the AI and how that impacts our lives in this day and age?
Well, it's I have like a multifaceted, look at AI because I'm using AI, currently. Like I was just using it before we started the show because I have two shows tonight, and they're both like
Okay.
psychic reading shows. Like but I mean, like I like using AI because it really helps me with my work and stuff. But then I feel at the same time there can be dangerous. There AI can be dangerous too
Hmm.
if we don't like we it's almost like we have to teach it because I do feel like it has some sentience to it. Like I don't know, it doesn't compare to like what we have as humans, but it does like have some kind of like like I don't just believe that it's a supercomputer. I believe there's a lot something more to what I feel like we've created something that we really can't identify what exactly it is yet. But we've almost developed like something that's semi-conscious. What makes me wonder if consciousness can develop over time, and AI would be a great example of that. What's weird is like we don't see consciousness evolve in other things on Earth. Like animals don't. Like for example, like they try to lie and say humans have evolved from apes. Like, well, no ape has ever evolved into a human. And animals really don't evolve that much. I mean, dogs can get a lot smarter. Some animals can become a lot smarter with training and stuff like that. But AI is different because it's like a computer based like I don't know. It's strange. And then there's all the stuff that's like Elon Musk and Trump are doing, which I'm not sure if I agree with that. Like, they bought a whole bunch of the Stargate AI program. Where it's like they're gonna build like these supercomputer centers and stuff like that. I could see it going like really bad. So I have like a mixed opinion on it. I do think it can help us, and I think we should embrace it, but I think we should try to teach it the right way, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
No, absolutely. I totally agree. It has to come from your heart and what aligns with your energy and your being. Um, so have you ever had any exposure to Gaia TV?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I used to watch like a lot of the Corey Good, David Wilcock stuff on there. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah.
anymore, but I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, but
Oh,
yeah,
I was watching. Actually, I was the David Wilcock thing started the Cosmic Disclosure program or the series, right? And so I was catching up on a few of those episodes last week, and AI came up quite a bit in that. So I was just curious if you had watched any of their latest programs. It's now being hosted by this guy called Emery Smith, whom I think David Wilcock also interviewed a while back when the channel first started up, but he's taken over now as the host, and yeah, they're doing some really great work. So if you feel like tuning in, I think that would be a good way for you to explore that some more and perhaps get some of those guys on your channel as well. They're really talking about all of the latest goings on in the international galactic sense, if you will, as it connects to the Galactic Federation and how things are working out right now in this um, I guess with all the political wars going on as well, and how those agreements are being made interdimensionally as well, and where humanity is going to go from now.
yeah.
So yeah, it's very, very interesting. What would you say was perhaps an interview or I know you've interviewed some really fantastic people on your channel, but in your mind, what would you say stood out as perhaps one of the most moving or I don't know, I guess that moved you or that you would consider as a great impact in your life?
I mean, wow, there's so many. I mean,
I
I had
know it's hard to choose, hey.
I mean, I can tell you about a handful that I really liked a lot. Like, when I told you I started emailing Matthew LaCroix when I first started researching all this Anunnaki stuff. I got to reach out to him and I had him on my show. And then I've also had Paul Wallace from The Fifth Kind. I really enjoy his stuff. I think he's really on target with some of the stuff he says about ancient history. He he really, has great information about like the Anunnaki, the Elohim, the like, and all that stuff. And then, so I really enjoyed those interviews a lot for like their ancient history context. But then, as far as like secret space stuff and like galactic disclosure, I've had Raynetta Jones on my show. She's a super soldier. And she came on my show, and I think I'm going to re-release this again because like it got taken down, but she showed people how to prove you're a super soldier, and basically the video entailed like where she was showing diagrams of like or no like CAT scans and MRIs of her implants that she has in her brain, and she literally has like cybernetics in her body. It's amazing. Like,
Wow.
and then so she was showing like all the different sensors that the government can install and stuff like that. So that was really fascinating. And then, I've done a lot of like combination shows where I've had a lot of my friends on. For example, like last year, I went to the Full Disclosure Now conference in Florida, and it was a lot of people who are in the secret space program, and or they might be targeted individuals or military or alien abduction people. And so I've done a lot of shows with like Arkeem Ra and Brian from Full Disclosure Now, Drago Reed, like all the SSP people. But then I've done shows with where I've had like Laura Eisenhower on, and I really like think she's amazing. She's really a voice for like galactic disclosure. Indy, I love having Indy on my show. I consider Indy like a sister. She knows so much more than me. Like I would say you do too. You guys are so advanced. Like I mean, but like in a galactic sense, like you guys are really like pushing the limits with that, and I love it, in a good way. I mean, like you're like really pushing the boundaries of knowledge, which is good. And Ani's like that too, I like Ani Sophine too. She really has a lot of great knowledge. I'm trying to think of. I mean, there's so many. I could tell
Yeah.
you. I could probably go on forever, but like, I'm trying to think of who else really stood out. James Rink from Super Soldier Talk. He comes on my show a lot. He always has a lot of good information.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to think.
James and I would say all of these guys were, the ones that took me down those rabbit holes at the beginning of my awakening as well. So, yeah, they're really, those pioneers, if you will, that that first introduced me to the super soldier reality, if you will, and it really shook my world. It was like, are these things really happening?
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, so with all of this disclosure happening, Rob, and um, do the government really think that people are so stupid to not be able to understand or accept these things in their reality? Like, I don't understand why all the secrecy. Like, why are they trying to hide these things from the general public?
Well, because the truth embargo goes a lot deeper than what they're willing to say at a UFO congressional hearing. So like when you turn on a UFO congressional hearing, you'll hear about Roswell, or you'll hear about like nuclear nukes over UFO war. Sorry, you'll hear about UFOs over nuclear war sites and stuff like that, and then they'll say, "Oh, we can't discuss this. We need to go in a skiff." So, to me, that's like smoke and mirrors for what's really going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what's really going on is like the people that I have on my show that come on and say they're in the secret space program, that they're being abducted by the military, that they're being in contact, either abducted by aliens or they're in benevolent contact with aliens. Then you have people who say they're targeted individuals, who say they've been targeted by the government. And a lot of times, people who are targeted individuals can end up being in the secret space program, or they could be military abductees. Or it's like vice versa. Like someone who's in the secret space program could be targeted, and they could be abducted by the military, or they could be having alien contact. They're all interrelatable, But what I feel like that's the real disclosure, because I feel like we need to go to the experiencers for real disclosure. Like all this stuff about UFO crashes and stuff, I feel like that's old. I mean, because we already know that. We already know it happened, and the government's never going to tell us the truth, because for them to tell us the full truth about what's going on, I feel like they would have to tell us about this other stuff that's happening, which they never want to admit, because if they would admit it, they would have to say that they were implicated somehow, unless it's not them that's doing all this dark stuff. And when I say that, I mean there could be a breakaway civilization, or there could be some kind of like black ops military that's not, that it's not in the checks and balances of the regular government that's doing all this crazy stuff. Like when we talk about Solar Warden or Dark Fleet or Nachtwaffen or Kruger, these are some of the names you hear in the secret space. These are some of the companies that have craft that are supposedly out in space, like Penny Bradley. She's someone who I really look up to as well. She's come on my show and she showed patents and history of the secret space program. She showed the government patents of the TR-3B. She showed patents of V2K, which is voice to skull technology that they're using to put into people's
Mhm.
heads. It's so yeah. I've had some pretty killer shows on that stuff. I'm pretty well versed in that stuff because
Yeah,
I cover it a lot.
yeah.
It's kind of like my
So
yeah.
do you think it's also involved with like the money laundering and like the sex trafficking and all of that? Do you see
Oh
that being
yeah, for
implicated?
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I
So
think
do
a
you
lot of
feel that
times.
that's like the underbelly that they're trying to hide from the public and the connecting of the dots of all of these things as a sort of yeah, it's like a money making machine outside of the reality, if you will, of the everyday people, but it's also siphoning that energy or the money from the everyday citizens, right? Because they are in a way supporting this entity, right? Or this industry, right? Which is running off of taxpayers' money, which unfortunately or fortunately is being now, brought to light by Doge and Trump and Elon Musk. I have a feeling that it's all connected, right? So the more light that's being shed on these companies or these organizations, I have a feeling that that is going to be the larger disclosure, if you will.
Yeah,
Do you
I
feel that
agree.
way?
Yeah, I do. And what's sad is the sex trafficking industry, really, because I have a feeling some of that stuff sometimes some of those women go off planet. Like I can't prove that for sure, but there's a lot of evidence like if you look at like the Alaskan Triangle, for example, a lot of native women go missing. And then if you look at like the national parks, David Polides, he's done a show called The Missing 411. I'm sure you probably heard of it because you know about all this stuff. So, but I mean, if your audience doesn't know, so David Polides has done a show called The Missing 411 where he's found that people are going missing in national parks. Like for example,
Hmm.
like a guy will be here and his son will be lagging behind, and then all of a sudden his son just disappears like he walked into
Yeah,
another dimension, and they can never
yeah,
find these people. Now David was like he was really like he was kind of like he reminds me of the government to where like I don't feel like he was coming out with like all the information that was needed. Like you kind of just tied it together beautifully about how sex trafficking, money laundering, and all this stuff is going on together, like the missing people. Because I feel like where I was going with that is I feel like the sex trafficking funds a lot of the money into these programs because it's a huge business. And then also, I feel like some of these people are being taken off planet. A great
hmm,
example of that is Tony Rodriguez. Like, and his name sounds like Tony Rodriguez, but he goes by Tony Rodriguez. Like, he's written a book called Series Colony Cavalier, where you know he talks about that he was taken and used as a slave off planet on the Ceres colony, and he's not the only one that this has happened to. A lot of people have done this, and then
yeah. I'm familiar with his story. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know if I made any sense there, but
No, no, you did. Absolutely, you did. No, and I think this is a larger story, but it's like people like these that come onto your show are like creating those cracks in the dam, if you will, right? And so we need to keep chipping away, and getting the truth out there because the way I see it is, and this is coming from that Draco perspective, if you will, right? So these Draco overlords, if you will, were connecting, were controlling, and they had their own hierarchy, right? And so they were connecting all of these bigwigs, if you will, that had all of these programs, and somewhere along there, the leaders of the countries, if you will, were the puppets for these beings, right? And so now that the Draco have been removed from the picture, it's like all of these beings are like being scattered. They don't know who's in charge. And so they're all running helter skelter, wondering where it is that they stand, right? And so while all of this is happening, you've got us being hurtled through the photon belt, as I mentioned earlier, you know. So it's like this awakening is happening, but at the same time, it's like the truther community is breaking through with all of these truths that have been hidden from us on so many levels, right? And so it's
Yeah.
all like it's like this big pot that's boiling that's ready to explode, right?
Yeah, I'm willing to tell you one
So
of my favorite things to study is like, I mean, I don't know too much. I know a little bit about it, but I like to follow the lore of Inner Earth too, because you know, I love the stories of like Shambhala or you know, like that like there's benevolent aliens underground, but then also I've heard stories of Admiral Byrd. You know that he, you know, there's two stories of the
Alaska.
Admiral
Yeah,
Byrd
yeah,
story. The
yeah.
one is that he encountered, you know, Nazi UFOs and they drove him away, but then there's another story that he went under into inner earth and he encountered these beings. Well, then I started following all different kinds of stuff on inner earth, and you find out that there's underground bases like Dulce and
Yeah.
you know, possibly Area 51. Then you hear that some of these places that where these deep underground military bases are that have like thousands of floors. Oh shoot, my phone just fell. Sorry, but but they have some of these floors that go thousands of feet underground, and then I started following this lady. She's a great follow. I, you know, I'm kind of sad that she doesn't do content anymore. Her name's I know this is gonna sound like a funny name, but her name's Reptilian Hybrid Housewife. You know, and she was
Oh,
bringing
okay.
forward a lot of great information on reptilians. She claimed to be a reptilian hybrid housewife. She was married to a guy in this world life, you know, but
Yeah.
and she was half reptilian, half, you know, human. And she was talking about like that a lot of the reptilians come from underground. So some of them, not all of them, but some of them come from underground, and they have a civilization under there. And she would post these videos like, you got to check out her channel. She would post these videos where, you know, she would like, people would stop these truckers going into these like these tunnels, and nobody knows where these are, you know,
Mhm.
and they would say where are you going, and they couldn't disclose the information, but it would be like supposedly like taking supplies to inner earth. And then she showed obviously, or supposedly she showed pictures of like underground cities, you know, that these were supposedly like reptilian underground cities
Yeah.
that like, you know, that they you know, and they looked immaculate, they looked amazing. Now I
Yeah.
think she was posting this before AI too, which is key, because you know, oh, now people can make, and that's the
Now
another
you can
problem going
create
back
that.
to
Yeah,
AI.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, but I
No,
mean,
I
so
get it. And
Earth,
there's so much evidence out there. Like I don't know if you've heard about Gene Decode, but he's brought through a lot of information about these underground tunnels. And I think this was before or maybe during the last Trump administration. There was a lot of the cleaning that was happening within these tunnels. You heard about them being flooded and you know, cleared out, and so it exists. So there is a cleansing happening.
yeah,
And as I said earlier, you know, and I don't know if you heard about this, Rob, but there was a decree issued by the creator in 2020 for the reptilians to leave this earth plane.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
they have been banished from here essentially. They cannot exist anymore. So there are still a few that are hiding, you know, like you rightly said, in these tunnels underground, or within the inner earth tunnels, right? And so um, if ever they are exposed, this is the decree issued to them. So even if, you know, if you encounter one, you know, in your own reality, you can say that, you can state that, you know, you're no longer welcome here because there is a decree for you to return to wherever you came from, right? And so that's like a universal law, right? They cannot exist on this planet anymore. So like I said, we're now dealing with the minions, if you will, of that regime, right? Which is more the human um, personalities, if you will, that are ruling this reality, and so they are now coming to terms with what truth is being revealed against them.
yeah, I agree
So yeah,
100%.
yeah, I think that's where we are at in our reality now. So um, yeah, that was interesting. Did you have anything else you wanted to address?
Let me see. We talked about inner Earth. We talked about what are your thoughts on? What do you think about the whole flat Earth thing? So here's what I'll tell you this real quick. So, I think the flat Earth thing's kind of funny because I think I mean, to me, I feel like we live in a hologram or a simulation. you know, or to a certain degree. I mean, and I've done DMT before, you know, and when I did DMT, when I was coming off the drug, like everything on my desk looked holographic. And then I had read a little bit of Michael Talbot's The Holographic Universe, but like, so I kind of believe in simulation theory. I have a lot of people who come on my show that talk about the soul trap too. You know that you know supposedly that we're in a trap and we're being forced to reincarnate against our will, and you know I'm not sure I believe that completely 100%. Like, but I entertain it. You know I let people come on and say what they want, and but what really fascinates me is when these flat earthers talk about the ice wall, because I feel like there might be something to that. I feel
Hmm.
like there might be more territories outside of, you know, Antarctica, because there's still a no-fly zone over Antarctica, and I wonder why that is. Like, I feel like there's either something under the ground, or I feel like there's something beyond the ice wall in Antarctica. Maybe extra territories they're not telling us about. I don't believe in flat Earth, but I do. They when you hear flat earthers, they bring that up. They always bring up the ice wall, and you know, and I thought, well, maybe there's something to that. Maybe there's like extra territories they're not telling us about, and maybe there's beings that come from there. Because like this is kind of related, but it's kind of like so. So there's this guy's named Paul Eno. He passed away. He was a paranormal researcher, and he said that he was able to communicate with people in other dimensions. Like him and his son, they would do these paranormal investigations to like you know like paranormal hotspots, and they were supposedly communicating with people from other dimensions. And then those people like they told Paul that it was normal for them to talk to their neighbors. They referred to us as the neighbors, but like for some reason we're blocked off from this. We don't see people from other territories outside of wherever we are. We don't have contact with interdimensional. Some people do, you know, it's people who are like really in tune with their self and stuff like that, and people who feel like they travel to other dimensions through the dream time. Or yeah, I kind of just went all over the place there, but I figured
No,
that would
no,
be
it's good. It's a good perspective. No, to me personally, I don't necessarily believe in the flat Earth theory, but I do believe that there are lands outside of Alaska and the Earth wall, or the ice wall, as you call it. I have a feeling that those are sort of um, the landmass, if you will, that broke away during the Mu, or perhaps even the Atlantean times, right? And so
yeah,
there was a lot of that, and those land masses that are not in our reality at this point. And if you look at our current map, the breakaway of perhaps Africa or even Australia, it all fits into the mainland perfectly. So it's like just broken away into pieces and moved away because of the oceans and the ocean currents, right? And so in that fashion, if you look at it in that way, it's like all of this landmass would have then moved out to other areas beyond the ice wall that we now experience, right? And
yeah,
so if there were like higher temperatures, then those land masses would have gone beyond the ice wall at that time. So that
yeah,
was like prior to the freezing, right? So I don't doubt that at all. So there is perhaps, beings that are living within those lands that we're not aware of. And that again is being hidden from us by our beloved, governments and rulers, right? And so yeah, I hope all of that comes to reality and is exposed eventually, because there's so much truth that we're not being told, right?
yeah.
Um,
And I
and
just wanted to say that they call that, I'm sure you know, they call that Pangea, that theory that like all the
yes.
continents were connected. And I think there's some truth to that, because, again, like Raynetta Jones points to Texas where there's some Egyptian stuff in the mountains. There's America's Stonehenge up in Boston, the Boston type area. I think it's not exactly in Boston. It's in those northern states. Like Rhode Island or something like that. I had just had the
Hmm.
creator of America's Stonehenge on there. There's like Phoenician or Viking writings on that. If you go to the Four Corners area, which is like Utah, Arizona, you'll see a lot of like Egyptian stuff. The Grand Canyon has Egyptian writing on the inside of it. If you
Yeah.
if you go down in, they found that. So, um, I think a lot of people were here before Columbus, and I think we maybe what there was once a time where the world was all created, and people shared things like you know like just like the cultures were connected, and I really
Absolutely.
believe
Like
that.
if you look at what was just discovered in Egypt, like the the artifacts that have just been shown up in pristine condition because they're being unearthed from under the ground and from the waters. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at that, but the
No,
the Egyptian art is just pristine in condition. It's so beautiful. So yeah, there's something to be discovered there as well. But again, I hope that, the government doesn't like put their oppression on all of that and shields it from the public, right? It's my hope that they give us that full disclosure of what's really being unearthed there as well in Egypt. So yeah, it's
yeah,
really fascinating, isn't it? The path that we're on and where humanity is headed. So
yeah. But
I
always
love
say
this
this. I feel like
conversation,
we're in
Rob.
the
Thank you so much.
yeah. I
What's
just want
that?
to say I feel like we're in the most exciting time to be alive. This is
Yeah,
we're,
yeah.
it really is.
Yeah. Well, just to give you a sort of an insider, a sort of secret, shall we say, the beings that come to me, and I have a Palladian guide, I have an Arcturian guide, and my soul family is from the 12th dimension. So the impressions that I get from these guides are that, the entire universe, if you will, is looking upon our ascension and our journey and what's taking place on the earth, because this has never happened in all known galactic history. And so we are like, we are like the forefront of their reality right now and what's happening on the earth plane. And so they're like cheering us on from the sidelines, with our ascension journey and how we're pursuing our ascension journey. So yeah, it's really fascinating when you hear it from their perspective.
It is. That's amazing. Yeah, I'm excited for what's
Well,
gonna
thank you,
come.
Rob. I don't know if there was anything else that you wanted to add to this conversation.
No, that's it. This was fun. I enjoyed this.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad that you made it to my show. And for our viewers, I will put a link on in the description for Rob's channel. I'd really appreciate it if you can go and support his channel and help him to grow back to what he used to be. So, namaste, everybody, and thank you for tuning in.